Greetings and salutations, sir.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good.
Mhm.
The Shock the World Tour 2021 continues on and
Mhm.
on. We're going to
Mhm.
talk about the Hawks' victory, the
Mhm.
rest of the NBA playoffs, and a little bit about this NBA coaching carousel that's starting to turn a little bit.
Mhm.
So it, we're at an unbelievable moment right now, right? Because nobody thought we could do it. And people still don't necessarily think we can do it. So we're going
Mhm.
to talk about what happened last night, what's happening going forward,
Mhm.
and how do you think the series plays out. So without further ado, tell us what you saw last night.
Well, a couple things. What was really encouraging is, man, I've had people tell me this, and in fact, my brothers told me this. We're gonna have to have him come as a guest on the show. He said, "Man, Trace got that killer in him," and I saw that in last night. I don't think the shimmy thing was on purpose. I think he's just a little tired. It's just more of a reaction. But man, that guy, he wants all the smoke. And I tell you what, attitude reflects leadership. It's reflected from Trey, from our coach, from every player on down, every from 1 to 15. They really think they can win the whole thing, and I'm starting to believe too. I'm starting to believe too. I I
So
I
we
feel really
started
good.
off extremely slow in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked Nate, what's going on? And he said the team was sulking. And I just thought it was funny because Nate is an old school coach who brings that old school sensibility, but
Mm-hmm.
without the old school heavy handedness.
That's right.
He knows how to push the buttons and manipulate it without coming off as condescending.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think they believe in Nate. And more importantly, they know Nate believes in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started off with the Hawks playing a little slow. Nate said it. Everybody said it. They were just a little slow, and both teams went to tough game sevens. So you
Mm-hmm.
thought it might be both teams equally a little bit lethargic,
Mm-hmm.
but what kind of happens in these kind of games, and this is why home court advantage is so important.
Mm-hmm.
If we're both equally slow, you're going to be faster because the home court, the fans are behind you. And that
Mm-hmm.
place was a madhouse. And those Bucks fans standing outside of the stadium as you drive up, that's just crazy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the State Farm Arena has been on fire this whole time, but you haven't had a situation where the whole, you got a lot, almost as many as fans standing outside. So
Mm-hmm.
the Bucks got off to a great start,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically Giannis and Drew Holiday, and one of the guys that you thought would be a key to the series, and it's too early for me to say I told you so, but I told you so because Brooke does not match with the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're going to, have the result that they want, their best lineup is without Brooke Lopez, and that's always harder on a big man for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think we know that. We know that just being basketball historians. Like sometimes guards can flutter in and out if they're not full time starters or stars, but big men don't like to be sat and pulled and all that stuff. So,
Well, I wanted to
what were you
say,
thinking at the
to,
beginning of the game?
yeah, to that point, what my concern was is if Lopez is, uh, if he's making his shots, that would be conducive to Giannis being able to drive in on us. And, I knew what we couldn't stop him 1-on-1 anyway. And he was able to get his for the most part early on. But I think what happened was, man, we made him pay on defense. And eventually that was, if he's not making the shots, they can't use him. I think in game two, you'll probably, to your point, to your credit, I give you your credit, You'll probably see a lot less of Lopez game 2, and Bobby Portis will probably be his replacement. Now he's actually a formidable a challenge. So I'm not.
He is,
Mm-hmm.
but and what you're saying sounds very much like the MO for Coach Bud, right?
Yeah.
Because the real MO should really be, hey, we got to try something different,
Mm-hmm.
not we're going to replace one big with another big that's a little more active.
Well, even saying that now, advantage us because what they're probably going to do is they're going to come at us. He's actually not as big. He's small. I think he's like what 6'10". Bobby Portis 6'9", 6'10". But the advantage will be us because now you'll see this in game 2. Collins will be much more active. It's like, okay, what really happened is you were able to neutralize Collins, but you're not going to be able to neutralize Collins this game. I actually predict him to do very well.
I don't think they did a good job of neutralizing Collins. He had 23 and 16.
Yeah, but I think you'll see a much. I think you'll see. I don't like to do. You know me. I'm not super big on stats as I used to be. But I think when I say neutralize, I said Collins will be a monster on the boards.
He was a monster. He had 23 and 16.
He did do well. But what he's going to be much more formidable next game. You watch. We'll probably have to. I don't want us to try to feel like we can depend on Trae Young scoring 48 points.
And that's the rub. You just hit the rub.
Mm-hmm.
As much as enjoyable as it was to see Trae get that 48, I was hoping for a 50 burger. But if he's going to have the average 48, we're not going to win. But here's two things to counter that. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a point that I really wanted to discuss for outsiders and naysayers or even Hawks fans that are worried, like, well, we won by 3 and Trae scored 48. I think the shooting percentage of Trae doesn't matter. How many points he personally scores doesn't matter. He's making the right play. And one of the things is, if they can't stop you, if they can't hold you to below 48, him scoring was the right play, right? Yeah. And so you didn't. It was a couple of shots there at the end that you're like, Trae. Yeah, but
at the end, third quarter.
But really, the whole time, he got 48 in the offense. If it's a such thing as getting 48 in the offense. And the other factor that I hear national pundits incorrectly saying is what they told me was that Middleton had a bad game, right? That's what they told me, right? Okay. The problem is Middleton had his average game. What? But Middleton is their second best player. And unfortunately, what happens is we get so caught up in guys' best performance. And again, not that it matters or it doesn't matter, but Middleton is shooting 41% in the playoffs. Let me say that again. Middleton is shooting 41% in the playoffs, right? And so, 6 for 23 is not great, but he's not shooting 45% in the playoffs. And so he has struggled. He's shooting 34% from 3-point from in the playoffs. But the other thing that we got to be honest about, right? We got to be honest because if you're going to say one thing, you got to say the whole thing. Drew Holiday is shooting 27% from 3 in the playoffs.
Yeah. And, to that point, something that you hit on earlier that I was like, you know what? He's right. What is that? I hear a lot of echo. I'm sorry. What I saw, and I could be wrong. We'll see. But I just don't think. I think we've already played the toughest defense in the Eastern Conference and the second toughest.
I did say that.
And so what's going to happen? And Milwaukee's a formidable defense, but they're not as good as the other two. And so the problem for them is going to be like, you know what? They're just not going to be able to stop us from scoring. I think Nate does a really good job of making adjustments. I think what we see in Trey, it's not so much the 48. I think the 48 was like a put the scare in and was like, okay, they're going to have an adjustment for game 2. And the thing is, we're going to have our adjustments as well. I think you're going to have that Lou Williams moment. You're going to have Herter's going to have some moments against that defense. I think Drew Holiday is a really good defender. But the problem is, I don't know if Giannis is as good as on the ball defender as I thought he was. I think he's a great off the ball defender. But I think taking it to him directly.
To your point, Thibodeau, by any measure, has the best coverages. He mixes up his coverages the best, and his coverages cause you to shoot the worst or take the worst shots. So when they faced New York, they faced the best defensive scheme in the entire NBA, as evidenced by the Coach of the Year award, right? When you face when you faced Philadelphia, you faced the best perimeter. It's over. It's over.
Oh, man.
Like whatever the thoughts were, Ben Simmons is the best perimeter defense player. And when we talk about these regrettable awards, which I'm not a big fan of Giannis's 2 MVPs, but the same, I feel the same way about Ben Simmons not winning the Defensive Player of the Year, because there are all these advanced stats that are very, very, very heavily weighted towards big men and people missing shots around you and all that stuff is how Gobert won. And as we can see, his plus minus is not great. And so you can't be, but Ben Simmons, I said before the series started, I said, I love Drew Holiday. I wanted us to get Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
I love Drew Holiday a lot, but he's not the defender that Ben Simmons is. You can go back on our previous episode and please like and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. So if you watch this on Facebook, jump over to our YouTube so you get the notifications if you missed the show. But he's not as good a defender as Ben Simmons. And there's no shame in that because when watching him up close for 7 straight games, let me tell you, I watched the great one-on-one defenders. And Jordan, what Jordan and Pippen did was incredibly impressive. And Joe Dumars as well are some of the guys that I think of as like the elite perimeter defenders of all time in my era. I know some fans are going to be like, well, what about Sam Jones and the White Ghost, Billy? Okay, I'm talking about in the era, in the modern era. Michael Cooper as a undercover Lakers fan, I always love to see him. Dennis Johnson, Kevin McHale, but for the perimeter guys, one thing that they all had that Ben Simmons doesn't is the ability to put those hands on, to put that elbow in. And so if Ben Simmons with his athleticism and his size and strength was able to put elbows in,
it would be.
So, and he's like, well, why are we talking about the old series? I said, and I said this to Ricardo, I said on the air last time, that was like a torture, hellacious boot camp of the best perimeter defense. There's nobody left who has the defense that Ben Simmons has. Yeah. And so I agree, Ricardo, we got to go forward. And so, but we can't rely on the 48 points, but don't be afraid, Hawks fans, because he's a playmaker and he's going to make the plays that are presented. And so we talked about the individual defense of Ben Simmons with the backup of Joel Embiid, to your point, is a better team defender than Giannis. Yes, I don't want to hear it. You want to argue, jump on in here and argue. He's a better team defender than Giannis.
Yes, he is.
But has terrible coverages and 3 very good. And let me, if you throw Chris Middleton in there, 4 very good defenders.
Yeah,
their coverages are trash. They just have good individual defenders, but none of their defenders is at that level that Ben Simmons is as an all-time defender. And while Giannis is more mobile than Embiid, Embiid has a higher basketball IQ.
Yes.
So because Giannis is trying to block everything that comes inside the free throw line, and that can be used against him. Joel Embiid is very savvy on his block attempts, and so it was impressive to see Giannis. And so instead of worried about the Hawks, what the Hawks did or didn't do, let's take a real honest look at what happened for the Bucks. Well, you had Giannis go 14 for 25. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That is well over 50% for a guy. I mean, it's approaching 60%. So that's about 7% higher than he's shooting in the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's credit to Giannis. I mean, he played within himself. He took that one 3-pointer. He had another unofficial 3-point attempt, but there's always been like, should you count those into the quarters? He played well within himself. But one of the things that we don't get credit enough for, as we're talking about elite defenders, is this. I watched all these shows, and nobody talked about the steal that Capella got on Giannis. And so we just get so enamored with these raw numbers by these almost virtually unstoppable players who are all much taller than Capella. But the thing that Capella does, Capella tires them out. They don't tire Capella out.
I've shared with
Capella got that rebound and put back because he had more energy than they had, and it showed on that defensive play.
Yeah, I've shared that Capella was one of my dark horse picks for defensive player of the year. I thought he's been like that for at least the second half of the year. I thought he was
bookmark that comment because I want to go back to it.
Yeah, I thought he was as good as defensive player as anyone playing in the league. And I actually have a mix. You're talking to a person who has mixed. I actually like Rudy Gobert, but I understand in the playoffs that's just not an effective form of defense.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Who can play in the modern playoffs better, Capella's defense or Rudy?
Capella easily because he can switch off. Rudy. They picked on Rudy. You saw that. That's what was bothering me about the media coverage is people was acting like this was the first time we're seeing this. This is not the first time we're seeing
this. The third year in a row.
Yeah,
that his team has been outscored in his minutes on the floor, and and some of it is him being almost a zero offensive player. But the other part is, if you have a zero offensive player, you have to be able to be that critical on defense to at least keep it even or even allow your team to score more.
Someone pointed this out because I was trying to figure out why is he so ineffective on offense. All he has to do is set the screen, roll to the basket. But the thing is, when you're doing what they're asking you to do on the defensive end, it takes a lot out of you. And then you have to jump. You're basically running and jumping down the floor to get a piece of the basket.
You have that timing. Let me tell you. Capella's is not an offensively skilled guy by any measure, but he has great hands.
Yeah,
he hardly ever fumbles a pass.
Yeah,
and he has great hands to snatch rebounds and to catch difficult passes. And sometimes you see Trey and Collins and Herter throw even some crazy alley-oops because they just have that confidence that I don't have to throw a perfect alley-oop to Capella because if it's near the rim, he can catch it, adjust, and put it in.
And credit Trey to that too, because I saw a couple passes where he forces the issue. Like I could see where Capella was leading everyone down the court, and I don't know if he was 100% ready for the pass, but he's got the hands, like you say.
That's what I'm saying.
To receive it.
He doesn't have this great offensive repertoire, but his game is very limited. But within those limits, he grabbed it, because he got double blocked by Lopez and Giannis, which was an impressive defensive play. And then not soon after that, he got a pass that was not a great pass. So he retrieved the pass, but the pass was taking him under the basket, which would have resulted in another double block, maybe off of him. But he was able to reverse it up over his head. And the announcers were like, nice catch and shot by. No, that wasn't nice. That wasn't nice. That was Kevin Durant nice. It was like more his skills in that little square around the basket are very high for a guy who doesn't have offensive moves.
That's what got him in the league. And speaking of which, we should take this time out to give our flowers to our general manager, Travis. Because this guy, you know what he does, what I like about our squad and what I loved about our free agency, and why I said that even over my Lakers, they had the best offseason. And I said it's because they got the guys that fit. Bogey's hurt right now, but Bogey fits. I'm hoping that Cam can get some minutes because he's actually off the injury report.
He's off the injury list totally.
Totally, yeah. Sad to all of these bandwagon fans that didn't get a chance to see DeAndre Hunter because you talking about fit. I'm telling you, we might have won that Philadelphia series in 6 with DeAndre Hunter. He's that good.
Oh yeah, he adds an element on offense and defense that we don't currently have.
Yeah.
That we have to kind of split between multiple players. So and I agree with you, James. Welcome to the show. Capella is awesome. He's going up against the Beast, and they still get theirs, but he slows them down just enough. I think, James, he's in better shape than them.
That's right.
And when you're playing those, what he allows us to do is not double team those guys all game. So it's no coincidence that other guys don't get off against us. So we go, well, Embiid had 34. And the other Sixers couldn't shoot. No, we didn't double Embiid. We rarely doubled Embiid because Capella is like, give him to me, and eventually I'll wear him down. And he did that with some crucial stops down the stretch, specifically when he made Giannis miss and he grabbed the rebound and that steal in a 3-point. And it's like, which game are you guys watching? How is that like? Like good steal, but. No, this is the Jordan steal against Karl Malone. You had a player who is on fire, and you went and beat him to his spot. And so, and I was hoping that Capella guarded Giannis, and so that shows me I know a little bit of what I'm talking about because I thought that was a good matchup because Collins. I thought Collins could easily handle Brook Lopez, and that. Lopez would have a problem with Collins, and that cross matching it can be difficult for players. Brook Lopez with some speed capabilities, and Giannis with just that basketball IQ. And please let me be clear when I'm saying basketball IQ. I want you to know where that's coming from. I don't have any agenda. He picked up his first basketball when he was 12.
Yeah.
So when we were when we were shooting on the Nerf hoops, and then when we were 6 trying to get the ball up to the basket, when we were trying to run all the way from half court and touch the nets, when we were at the park hoping we could get a run, he wasn't playing a day of basketball. So when I say basketball IQ, his actual life IQ is great because I can't speak Greek nor any Nigerian. He can speak several dialects. He can speak Greek, and his English is great. His determination is great. So when I talk about basketball IQ, maybe the better word is just basketball reps. He doesn't have as many basketball reps. Like when you compare how many basketball reps a guy like Trey with a professional level player and a college basketball star as a dad had. Giannis is in basketball age where Trey was when he was probably 8 or 9. That's no insult. So, but Giannis played great. I said bookmark the conversation because I wanted to introduce this term, right? And we're going to talk about it because we talked about, and I want anybody who's listening to jump on in on this. we talked about how it's not clear what the NBA MVP is, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it the best story? Because it can't be the best player because they owe LeBron, Kobe, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, several of them, right? So is it the guy that helps his team win the most? Well, if it doesn't include the playoffs, what is so like? What's the difference between the 8th and the 9th seed? Like that's when they go, well, he can't get it because his team didn't make the playoffs. But if he took a sorrier roster within the play-in game of making the playoffs, that's not as good as. Or do you have to be the number 1 seed? So is it if by that criterion, if the 8 is eligible but the 9 seed is not, then the number 1 seed you really should take whoever the best player is off the number. So again, it's not clear. Yeah. But I want to add a little more confusion by saying, to me, Capella is the DVP. Defensive. The DVP. I'm going to let that marinate in y'all spirit for a second. Okay. I'm going to let that marinate in y'all spirit for a second.
Oh, where you going with this one?
You know where I'm going with it?
No, I don't. I don't know where you're going with this.
So, to me, the DVP is the guy that has the most impact on making a team sorry on defense or good on defense. We saw the Hawks without Capella and a lot of these same guys, right? We got some new guys. We got some new guys, right? But and I agree, James, when you talk about the criteria being unclear for the MVP, but we saw a lot of these same guys play, and they had one of the worst defenses in the NBA. Now Capella is there. He has the highest rebound percentage,
which is a part of defense. Yeah.
Which means we're a good rebounding team. We out-rebounded the best rebounding team in the NBA last night because of Collins and Capella. But Capella, right? He has the most percentage of blocks of anybody who averaged over 1.5 blocks. So what I'm saying is, while he's not, I don't pretend like he's the best defensive player in the league. He definitely should have been on the All NBA second team defensive All NBA second defensive team, because we have a decent defense because of Capella. We're worried about Bogey. We're worried about Herder. Listen, my new term is Capella is the DVP because we're good on defense just because we have Capella.
Well, I tell you what, I appreciate the concept. I love the ideology where you're coming from. I'm not going to use that terminology, but I'm going to let you have that, and I will understand what you're saying. You go ahead and trademark that, and you can go ahead and have that. I can't disagree. I think what you're kind of saying without saying is you feel like as good as our offense is, or we shall be in this series, don't overlook the ability of our defense because of number one, Capella and our ability to rebound. I agree with that.
Capella is the DVP because he allows everybody else to do what they do, right?
Yep, that's true. Okay, so you're gonna ride with that one. All right.
Yeah, he's the DVP. He's the DVP.
All right, DVP.
He's the league DVP. He's the league DVP because we don't have great coverages like Thibodeau has.
No.
Right?
No, nobody.
We don't have any individually great. I love Herder's. I love Herder's. Defense. I think he's an underrated defender because like when the teams keep blowing it, whoever Herder covers, they cool down. They put Herder on Middleton, bang. They put Herder on Seth. Every time Seth got hot, they put Herder on Seth, and he killed us in some third quarters. But when they put Herder on him,
I do agree with you that not just Capella, but Herder and actually Collins as well. I think that people underlook our defensive prowess as a whole. I think as a unit, I just think really we just got a really good coach. Nate's better than advertised. I knew he would be when we got him. I said, man, he'll probably end up being our head coach. and I was
Yeah,
kind of happy
everybody
about
said
that.
that.
Everyone
Everybody
said that. We
said
did say that, but
everybody said.
he does even a better. I liked him in Indiana. I couldn't understand why they let him go in Indiana.
I think Indiana doesn't understand why they let him go, and
I
they
would.
made a coaching decision
I bet you they.
that we're going to talk about a little later in the show.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. I'm sure, but it just seems like we just do a really good job of in our schematic adjustments in the second half. I'm always confident that when we were down 5 or we're down 8, like hey, we'll
I just
probably
never get. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a combination of Nate and
Mm-hmm.
Trey. It just it's like this feeling that you yeah you listen. Being able to watch, part of one of the things that happens when your team advances further
Mm-hmm.
is that you get to see more of your own team because the bigger networks are covering it. They have more equipment,
Mm-hmm.
and to get a peek into Nate's huddles is
Mm-hmm.
like the exact vibe for this team. Like
Yeah.
he is able to communicate. He's not hollering. He's engaged enough, but he's not micromanaging. And
Yeah.
it just it's like that subtle confidence that
Yeah. I like what Burrell just said. He is better. He can make demands. What you're describing to is Nate just has buy-in. Nate has buy-in, and that is, I'm telling you guys, in the NBA, a third of coaching is just buy-in. I don't care if you're running the triangle, what kind of wing tee, I don't care what you run, but you got to get your guys to believe in what you're selling. The other part is scheme. Like I said, I just think he knows what he's doing, and the guys can tell.
right, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an obvious difference. The way we played that 3-pointer that forced him to dump it down to Giannis, and he got fouled, and he hit his free throws. He hit his free throws, and again, when you're looking for pleasantries, again, the media is going to paint it. Oh, the Bucks did this, or they did that, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They listen. The Bucks are the Bucks on the playoffs are shooting about 45% from the field.
Okay.
Last night they shot 46% from the field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this idea that the Bucks were cold and just something that can never happen. I just don't ascribe to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that that's not what my worries. I think the Bucks are a good team.
Very good.
But as far as mental toughness, because of Trey, because whatever Trey has, several teams in the NBA would like to bottle that up and be able to sprinkle it on their players.
Let me share something about Trey real quick. I just want to bounce off of James' point about being down big. You know what happened with Kevin Hurt in Game 7? The inquiring minds want to know what happened was Seth Curry was sticking him, and it could have negated Kevin Hurt. All they had to do is stick Ben on him. But you know what would have happened if they did that? If Ben Simmons is sticking Kevin Hurt, who's he not sticking? Trae Young. See, what Trey does is even when he's not scoring, he's going to be a problem. It's not going to be that shimmy, the little smirks in New York. That confidence is there now. They done played 13 games now. This foundation is there. That's why I'm all for re-signing Collins. I'm ready to roll it back next year. I think we can have something big going up because Trey's confidence, and I'm glad to see the media finally give him his flowers somewhat, but you still got a ways to go. We got a good squad. Actually, the one thing I don't like when people are, if we want to do the Luka conversation, I don't like how people are saying, oh, if Luka was here, would it be different and whatnot? Well, you know what? Guess what? We got other good guys besides Trey. And so I actually like it. I think he would do great here. But I'm okay with the trade in hindsight because of who we got with him. I love Cam Reddish. I think DeAndre Hunter's a beast. I think he'll be great for us in the future. But I'm loving what we got right now. We got some ballers, and it's not just Trey.
And let me help the people who want to do this Luka comparison and whatever with Trey.
Go ahead.
Is Ben Simmons more talented than Clint Capella?
No. Well, yeah. He's more talented than.
He's the number 1 pick overall.
You know, that don't mean anything.
And so this idea that the right guy is based on who's the better player, you know, like, oh, Luka has been all NBA first team twice. Duh. So it's not, the question is not who's the best player between Trey and no. The question is who's the best fit for this team between Trey and Luka. And as much as I love Luka, everybody knows I was big team Luka before the draft.
You know,
but then Trey caught my eye, but I never thought he could be what he is so quickly. But I thought Luka could be, and to be honest, I didn't think Luka was going to be what he is so quickly. But here's the key. Trey and this team fit together.
Yeah.
And Luka and his current team are not the best fit, right? They are not bringing back that team that they had, which that was thought to be better than the team that the Hawks had. And so now there's dissension. Does Luka and Porzingis don't like each other? There's some other stuff. Hey, Daryl, thank you, and go Hawks to you. So this inane comparison, instead of saying they're both valuable, and it's not about who's the best and who's not the best, and it's not about, you know, look, that we like our guy because we're in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah,
we got the best GM in the league. They just got rid of that, and I agree. Luka would ball on any squad. I think that the challenge with Luka, and this is what I tell Ricardo all the time. I tell everybody, and because I'm putting Luka in this rarefied air. Think of Luka. Think about how long it took LeBron to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And when you have these guys that are like, are they point guards? Are they small forwards? What are they really? How do I build a team around them? Like if you reshuffle the deck with Luka, which it seems like they're going to do already, what do they need? Do they need another guard? Do they need a big man? I know who they want, John Collins, but it's not clear. And even with LeBron, who again is one of the top 3 players of all time, it was still kind of confusing at this point in their careers of how do you properly build a team around LeBron. And I think it's the same thing with Luka, because they do so many things that eat into a little bit of about 3 positions. So yeah, and you hit it, Daryl. So if you say with Luka, do they need a point guard to take some of his ball handling? I don't think he wants that, right? And you hit it my argument right on the head. It's clear. Trey's the point guard, so you just needed to go out and get a decent shooting guard. You just needed to get a decent wing. You just needed to get a scoring big off the bench. You just needed to get a defender, our DVP. So it was easier to build a team around there. Is Luka going to eventually win a championship? I hope so. I hate when generational players don't get that chance, like Allen Iverson, and then you start unappreciating them because of this culture that we've had that honors only if you win a championship are you validated. But sometimes I hear people talking about Charles Barkley, and that
and I don't even like
makes me mad because listen, what Charles Barkley is saying up there, he was the best player in the league in a year that Jordan was in the league. The stuff that he could do has never been done by anybody his size and never will be done.
I disagree. I mean, I agree with everything you said until you said he was better than Jordan for a year. Jordan, and I'm not a Jordan guy, but Jordan, I know who he was. Jordan was always the best. The thing is, he's got the same problem that LeBron has. People see it and they get used to it and they don't realize what it is anymore.
And I agree on that year that Karl Malone won, but go back and look at those.
I know what year you're talking about. You're talking about the year that Barkley won MVP.
Yeah.
He was a monster at 6'4", you're correct. But the problem is, I just think that you got to remember how good that Phoenix Suns team is. And I think when you guys, not you, but just people, period, when we're making these arguments about who's the best and MVP and whatnot, you're really not considering the situation around them. And that's my point about Trae. People are saying that, well, the Dallas team is better than the Atlanta Hawks team. I'm like, no, au contraire, mon frere. Now, they might have been the better team in November, but once we got a change of coach, schematic changes, plus we had a lot of people that were injured for months at a time coming back, and we still have some guys coming up. Cam, come back. You'll see a noticeable difference in terms of our rotation. I think he'll get some playing time, hopefully, if not this series, the next series. I think he'll actually get some.
And let me. You just reminded me of something. Hey, shout out to Solo. Shout out to Solo for thugging it out there. He had some critical defensive stops, and he is. Hey man, he's a dirty player.
He's dirty.
We know that, but he's an effort player. He had that breakaway dunk, and every basket in a 3-point win is important. And while I wouldn't mind some of his minutes going to Cam, we should never have a game in which Solo doesn't see the floor because he brings a different element. And Nate's rotation are just better than Bud's rotations, and that's some things are going to change throughout this series. What's not going to change is that Bud is known for being slow and not great at making scheme changes during the game and during series. Nate has shown us who have had
a change in the quarter.
He'll change. If it's not working, he's not going to keep doing it.
That's another.
That's one of those things that we kind of have in our back pocket as we wonder, because I don't want us to. I don't want us to get fat and happy with the game one, because everybody said the Hawks have won 3 straight game ones. We've also lost 3 straight game twos. So, and that's right, Gavin. As always, like I told you the story. Go back and look at the last episode of Channing Frye saying we couldn't believe Bud was. I haven't seen that coverage in the playoffs until I just saw it again when the Nets did it. And again, we don't even have all our shooters back. But what I can say, and I don't know if it was the halftime injection, I saw Bogey look a little bit better in that second. We talk about pieces of pieces, right? Yeah. And if we can mess around and get Bogey back to a decent plan, Bogey 80%. Is a very, very skilled combo guard, and he does take some of the ball handling pressure off of Trae. And part of the challenge and what makes what Trae has done so effective is as Bogey has been hurt, because what Trae will do sometimes is be like, let's run the offense through Bogey. Since y'all want to put Ben Simmons on me, let's run the offense through Bogey. And Chris Middleton is a good defender, but Bogey would be a Bogey would make you pick between Connaughton, who's not a good defender. Forbes is such a bad defender that he's unplayable. And
best shooter, but unplayable.
Yeah, he's a good shooter. But you're gonna have to pick between Herter and Bogey, and that's where they get you into that choice. So I would love to see Bogey get healthy. And it did feel good to see, as bad as he looked, and some of it was painful to watch in the first half. He looked a little better in the second half. Yeah. I could take those numbers.
I'm gonna say
I would
30,
say 30 in that first half.
30 and maybe 45 second half.
Yeah, I would say 30 in that first, but he did look a little better, which is encouraging because if he's he's good. And Daryl, you make a good point, but here's what I want you to think about. Here's what I want you to think about. They Drew and Middleton are going to switch between having good and bad games, right? If Drew and Middleton have good games, we're going to lose that game, right? And that's okay. I just don't believe they have it in them. Middleton's role splits are like a role player.
It's weird.
He's shooting like 30% on the road, right?
Yeah.
And so Drew shot better last night than he hit more 3-pointers last night than he hit the last 5 games of the series that they won against the Nets. So let's not get carried away.
And remember, it's the Nets. It's not like they played a defense.
Right. They're not some defensive juggernaut. Right. Yeah. It's not like they were playing the Knicks or the Sixers. So what are you looking for in game 2? What do you want to see in game 2? What do you want out of it? Hey, John.
I don't know if you remember this. I actually shared that I thought we had a chance to sneak out with 2 wins early on.
You did.
Yeah.
And then you kind of
hedged my bet. I did because I admit it's hard, guys. Y'all got to bear with me when it comes to my Hawks. It's just I have to be careful. There's another team that I won't say, but I'm actually worse with them. I can't even predict them because I just can't. But with my Hawks, I feel like I think that Nate is probably the perfect coach to have to deal with this situation. I think Bud's a good coach. So what I'm going to say is not trashing Bud. I don't agree with Jameed that he's going to adjust the next game. I think he'll be forced to adjust. Bud believes in you got to understand he's a good coach. He's a really good coach. And what the problem is with really good coaches, some really good coaches, guys who can win 50, 60 regular season games, is it's hard to tell them to do something different. It's hard to get them to adjust.
They're like, I won 57 games. What
are you talking about? So he's looking at, look, I got Giannis, I got Middleton, and I got Drew Holiday, and I'm looking across him, and odds are Trey's not going to score 48 points again. He won't. But this is what I'm talking about. You guys, the Hawks I'm telling you, those 48 points was like a warning. What that was you saw a lot of floaters. It wasn't like he shot like a gang of threes. He shot threes. He didn't actually shoot threes well again. And he hasn't shot 3-ball well all playoffs, really. He's maybe had a couple games. But that floater is killer. It's a killer because you can do so much with it. See, the guy who's defending you, they got to think about you shooting that floater, which is pretty hard to stop. Capella is rolling to the side of the basket. He's like, man, I don't want to get dunked on. And if you saw them fooling around last night, he threw a pass to John Collins that I was like, what are you? And then it went, I said, oh, okay. Y'all know what you're doing. But when you have that type of confidence.
So what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Game 2.
Game 2, I'm leaning towards I think they're going to steal it.
The thing about it is the Hawks are never out of the game, right? They never give up. You see when teams give up, they never give up. Even when they were down 18 and 26. That's not a good match for a Bucks team that is still mentally weak, right? Yep. Giannis was mad about the shimmy, and they still didn't do anything about it. There's no way Giannis shoots that well. There's no way that Trey shoots that well. So I'm going to concede that. But it doesn't take that to steal another win. Because here's the thing. The Hawks are going to be good whether they win or lose tomorrow.
Exactly.
The Bucks lose tomorrow, they go pack it in. Yeah. They packed it in against the Nets. The injury gods unpacked it out.
Yes, it did. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened.
The Bucks were done. Well, your best player is like he's the best player in the league right now. I don't know what you can do. And then you come back that next game. And they should have lost that game. And they only lost if Harden had been able to play even crippled like he was at the end of the thing. So this game is not as big for the Hawks as it is for the Bucks. So, I'm predicting the Bucks will come through. The analyst in me says the Bucks come through, but I want to see how many points because I don't know about that. But what I will tell you, and I agree with Daryl, if the Bucks lose tomorrow, it's over. It is totally over. They don't have the constitution to come back. And the Nets series makes it seem like something happened that didn't happen. But if you watch that series, which I watched every game, they don't belong on the floor with the Nets. And so we're not nearly as good as the Nets offensively. We're better than the Nets defensively. So that's how I feel. And so tonight you have Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals, and you have these resilient Clippers who don't care. Like they keep going down 0-2, and you keep writing their obituary. They were a good team, and they fought back without Kawhi. They're like, whoa! They keep coming out of the casket like the Undertaker.
No, sir, not this time, sir.
And what I can tell you is they are. If there's a team in competition for mental toughness with the Hawks, with the Clippers. So if they can win, it'll be a series again just because they think that they can win. But we know CP3 is back. Finally, the mystery of CP3. And Kawhi is not back. And so that doesn't sound great. It is going to take CP3 a little bit of time to reintegrate with the team that's used to playing without him. But CP3 is still the best floor general. So he's going to lose you some points on defense. He can't blow by people like Cam Payne, but there's a bunch of passes that Cam Payne didn't see that CP3 will see. And so I hope as a basketball fan and as a Hawks fan, right? As a basketball fan and a Hawks fan, I hope that for both of them that the Clippers win tonight, right? Because I love CP3, but I wouldn't love them sweeping the Clippers and sitting home for a week waiting for us to play them. So you got to think about that of like, who am I rooting for? But that tough Clippers team, if they come out, don't be surprised if they come out and win because they have it in them. And they have a great coach who has adjusted, and they should have won at least one of those games.
The last one, they won. I mean, that was pretty miraculous. They won with 8.8 seconds left.
Right. I've never seen that in all my years of watching basketball.
That's ridiculous. I didn't even know it was illegal.
Hey, listen. Let me be honest. Let me be honest. I will too. And I can admit, I was like, and then when they explained it, it made sense. But guess what? Coaches and players didn't know, so don't. You know what I'm saying? Don't feel bad, or you don't have to pretend like you already knew the rule. Because if the ball goes in the basket on a out of bound pass, then that's a violation. And so, but it's no basket interference because you can pass it anywhere near. So it's a great play. I hope that the Clippers can grab a game. I don't see any way that they can come back without Kawhi to win this series. And that was good, right? And so we had, speaking of the Clippers, the team that they eliminated, and we talked a little bit about Luka, they blew up their whole front office structure, right? And so and they fired the GM. Rick Carlisle was like, I'm tired of Luka. Which is, has to be a part of the consideration. But he landed quickly in Indiana with the Pacers.
Yeah.
Who, luckily for us, fired Nate McMillan. So it's like the full circle. The Pacers fired Nate McMillan, not even for what he did while he was there, because if you look back at it, with Victor Oladipo's injuries and what have you, he never had his team in the playoff, right?
Yeah.
And so they fired him. Rick Carlisle takes over there. Jason Kidd is rumored to be the favorite in Dallas. He has a long-standing relationship with Mark Cuban, and obviously with him and Luka playing the position, you kind of like the fit. But I think the question is did we build this roster right? Because they don't have a lot of cap space, and the players that they have are going to be hard to trade, right? Porzingis is going to be hard to find a taker for Porzingis because it appears as if he wants to be the tallest shooting guard ever in the NBA history, and not a tough shooting guard like Herter, but more of a Seth Curry like spot up shooter. So, what's your thoughts about that transaction?
I think there's a lot that still hasn't come out yet. To be honest with you, I'm hearing there is another manager, the vice president. I can't say the guy's name off the top of my head. I just heard this today. The vice president, he's kind of more of the cancer in the building. He's kind of like from my understanding, the owner of Mark Cuban. He's his boy, and
but I talked about that last week. You weren't listening to your own webcast.
No,
he's the gambling specialist. That's right.
That's right.
He has Mark Cuban's ear because he has an eye for analytics. And it was unclear who was the GM and who wasn't the GM.
Yeah, so, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's got to happen, but they're real tight, so we'll see. But the thing is, Luka, you got to remember, he was good night. Since he was 16 years old. He's not like LeBron, whereas LeBron was 16, and he had the apple of people's eye. He had a really good. I've never seen an athlete in sports history has had a better surrounding his people since the time he came in the league. He just knows how to say the right things. He's doing the right things. He's had good people in his corner for the most part, telling him no. They probably should have had a talk with him and said that decision wasn't a good idea. But every other decision he's made outside basketball has been good. Whereas Luka, I'm not defending him. I don't know enough to say one way or the other, but my impression is he's just a guy who's probably been really good at basketball and just been really hard to hear no from. He probably didn't tell no to. And I think that's probably got a grade on it. I actually thought that Porzingis had a legit beef in some things he said. I just think he should have been the last person to say it. Like, you were not you were not in position to say anything publicly, But I don't know. I actually, I think this stuff will work itself out. I think that when you're that good and that talented, it'll work itself out because there's going to be some guys that's going to want to play with that, especially you take a 30-year-old like a DeMar DeRozan who just wants to win a ring. I'm just using it as an example. I just think there's just too many moves you can make in today's NBA. I think they'll be fine. This is one of those.
Do you think the Celtics will be fine? Right? Because the Celtics had the rare situation where the coach gets fired upstairs without any previous front office experience. And he pulls Udoka, better known to our listeners as Nia Long's man.
Yeah.
And so,
see, the thing is,
Nia Long's man.
Yeah.
So he was named their head coach. And Jay Williams apparently doesn't know that much about the NBA because he said he was their first black coach. Or
he said he was hacked after that. He said I don't even believe he's hacked.
He said it was hacked.
Yeah, he said he's hacked.
Oh man, gone with that.
But come on, man, you had the blue.
I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I made a mistake. Yeah. Udoka was hot. He's from the Spurs tree. So he's at the Spurs tree. And I like when guys come from a tree, but instead of staying on that tree, they go get some experience under somebody else.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely going to have a lot of insider information coming from Brooklyn to what they really thought about the Celtics players and what their opportunities. I just think that, first of all, I love Brad Stevens as a coach. Let me say that. And I think it's a mistake that he's not coaching. That guy can drop some plays, and he gets along with the players. Yeah. I think what really happened is the media has this relationship with Danny Ainge, and we know there's a certain protected class.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Ainge has messed this team up over the last 4 years since he stole. He did a great job of stealing Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Since then, he's messed the team up by demanding ridiculous returns on any trade for guys, and he had some guys on the team that had trade value that kind of like the Braves and Kyle Wright. They don't have trade value anymore. And so you passed up a lot of opportunities to get the team better. I thought you made the right decision with Gordon Hayward, right? But then you just got the black Gordon Hayward in Kemba Walker. And it's like, well, he's never been injured before like this. He had never played the whole season before. You knew he had some knee issues before you signed him. And so I don't see why you would trade the same player in the same player slot. I mean, you should have gone a different way. So I thought that was a mistake. And so it is going to be interesting because they still have two dogs in Jaylen Brown, who was unfortunately injured, and Jason Tatum. But I think this team is going to look totally different because it's such a broken team. It's like a 2 or 3 man team.
Well, they traded. What did you think of the trade with OKC? They got back Al Horford.
I like Al Horford. I don't definitely like Al Horford on that contract. Everybody wanted Oklahoma City to waive him, but Oklahoma City's salary cap is so low they couldn't waive him because then they would be below the salary cap floor. So they weren't going to waive him. I would have loved to have Al Horford to come in off the bench for the Hawks next season, but that's not going to happen because he's going to make his full salary playing for the Celtics doing I don't know what. So I think there's a lot of other moves that fit with that chess piece. They have held on to Marcus Smart for too long. And I like Marcus Smart.
I love Marcus
He's paid like a superstar, and he is just a really, 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 really advanced role player. So it's going to be interesting to see how they shake out because they are part of the Hawks' rivals.
Yeah. I tell you what, the other thing is I'm looking at is I am anxious to see what's going to happen in Clipperland after these playoffs because if I'm Kawhi, because he can get out of that contract, he can get another contract. I don't care how bad his knee is, and I'd take him here in Atlanta. What team is not going to take him? Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying, this is one of the type of guys that you make it.
If he says every team in the NBA would take him.
That's my point. It's not about trying to get him here. My point is he can go anywhere. When you have that kind of power, and I think they're going to have to make wholesale changes over there, but the problem is they shouldn't make any changes.
No, I don't think so. To answer your question, Daryl, I don't think Kawhi is leaving. Okay. I don't think Kawhi is leaving. I don't even think it's a thing. I think them getting this far without Kawhi is the message that Kawhi needed to see. That's the best place for him. They've also illegally paid his uncle allegedly. Don't try to sue me, but if his uncle demanded it and the other team said no, and then he went to this team, whatever. But he's not going anywhere. He lives there. He has a house in San Diego. He has a house in LA.
Hear me. I'm not necessarily saying Kawhi is going to be leaving. My point is, when you have that kind of power and that type of authority, and you better believe I think the odds are very good he's going to opt out of that contract. And he can go and say, you know what? Maybe we should trade Paul George for CJ McCollum. We need a little more offense. I'm just throwing names out. I don't think the team as constructed presently is going to be the same next year. I don't think Patrick Beverley is going to be there too much longer. I think they're going to have to make.
I don't think it's going to be any major changes. I think if Kawhi was there, the Clippers would be the Vegas favorite to win the finals.
Listen to me.
I said the Vegas favorite.
I understand that. But listen to me.
Ricardo's
I know. But who's the one who told you? Now, you have to understand. When they were down 0-2, and Vegas didn't love Clippers. I told you about it. But let me tell you what I see. A lot of the guys that they got they got too many guys that do the same thing. Like as far as this Kawhi do it better than Paul George, no. And the truth is maybe the Rondo thing isn't going to work out. and they really have a lot of the same issue. This series is going to expose them. And in all honesty, they don't have the guard play to compete in today's in the playoffs. They're not going to ever beat the Suns. They won't beat them next year either. They won't beat the Lakers. I don't even think. I think that Portland would give them a run for their money. I'm telling you, in today's league, guard play. It's like
Talk
college.
about revisionist history.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just telling you the way the rules are, the way the things work in their favor. If your guys are making free throws, but the difference in the series with us in Philly was the fact that our guards were not afraid to go get free throws, and their guard was. He's a super talented guard. You've heard me say for a couple years, I would love Ben Simmons here, and even right after we beat him, the first thing I was inboxing telling you is like, man, his trade value will be never lower than it is right now. But I don't know if he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't. We'll see how that plays out. I just don't see any big changes because of salary cap numbers. And not that what you're saying is wrong. I don't think they need a major change. They need a young, big body who can and it's not a lot of them around. Right?
Yeah,
It's not a lot of they don't need better guard play. They need a young guard, but help out like one guard under 30. But their guard play is fine if you have Kawhi and Paul George playing with them.
I don't agree with it. But we'll see. Tomato. I also said that we're going to win game 2, so we'll be back and we'll see. Hey, what was Ricardo?
Yeah, I mean, that's a long wait for that. But I think that every team is going to have to try to tweak itself. But teams that are up against that salary cap don't have as much freedom to rebuild or restructure their team. And I think it would be a huge loss for them to trade Paul George for C.J. McCollum. That's not
just throwing it out there. I'm not saying
but
it would be C.J. McCollum. I'm just throwing it out there. I
think this has been a huge playoff for Paul George because at the beginning of the playoffs, I probably didn't feel that way. So C.J. McCollum got, and he's on social media, so I don't want him to track me down. I don't want. I like you, C.J. McCollum, but you're not. So
yeah, forget C.J. McCollum. That's not my point. The point is him and Kawhi do a lot of the same things, and you don't need them.
That's been true the whole time. I don't think that's a revelation here. So
remember when it happens, I just want the credit. I want my flowers when it happens.
Okay, and when it doesn't happen, which is what you don't like, you do a great job. I told you so. You don't do a good job of being like, yeah.
I've been pretty much right with almost everything that so far that I can think of. If there's something wrong that I can think of, you let me know. Help me out.
Oh my God! Talk about selective memory.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. I mean, you're right, but
you're gonna be thinking about it after.
You never. No, I'm not. I know because I know 10 things you're wrong about, but you have a blind eye to it.
Name one.
You said Hawks in 7. You said
I did Hawks in 7.
No, you said I'm talking about it against the Knicks. You said Hawks.
No, I said Hawks in 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who said
Who
said Hawks in 5?
No. Yeah, you did. Okay. I give you your fuzz if you said, but
no. I mean, you're gonna be wrong. It's okay. But nobody loves saying they're right as you. But we'll bookmark this show.
Yeah,
I don't think they can substantially break up their team. I think they have to find some fringes to enhance their team. I love that young Terrence Mann. But we'll see. It's going to be exciting. One thing that is true is teams are going to be more aggressive in this offseason after what the Hawks did. The Hawks is going to make teams be more aggressive because the Hawks made a lot more moves, even though they weren't max free agent level moves than other guys wanted.
Hence why I said what I was saying earlier about the Clippers because of Terrence Mann. Mark it down. Bookmark this. So when it happens, I want my flowers.
Okay. All right, Ricardo. Close the show out for us.
All right. Once again, Jameed and I, we are so grateful to have each and every one of you. If you get a chance, make sure you check out our we.sports.com YouTube channel, the We.Sports Atlanta Twitter. It's under We.Atlanta Sports. We thank you guys so much for your time. For Jameed and myself, peace up. A-Town down.
Hey, 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 hey.